I think the Detroit Lions are the most resilient team I have ever seen in the National Football League in my lifetime. I'll tell you why here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Exactly right. It is your team every day here on Locked On NFL. And we thank you for making us your first listen. Locked On NFL is where you can get a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with the help of our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I'm the host, Tony the Barber Wiggins, joined today by my longtime OG, Matt Williamson. And he's going to sit in today as we go over the following subjects. We will talk about the game of the week and take a sneak peek at the rest of the action in the National Football League at the end, right smack in the middle. A Kirk reunion in Minnesota with a little bit of meaning. Talking about wild cards that can do a little bit of damage. Everybody's looking past Minnesota. They're 10-2. They're looking past them because the game of the week actually may have been last night between the Lions and the Packers. We'll discuss that and discuss why both teams basically showed us who they were and why I say the Lions are the most resilient team I have ever seen. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. So visit FanDuel.com. FanDuel is today's sponsor. Also, make sure you go over and check out Locked On NFL on Amazon Music. That's right, Amazon Music for Locked On NFL. Matt, we got a good game last night, man, that kind of showed us who both of these teams were a little bit between Green Bay and Detroit.
Yeah, I think it is the game of the week. I think they could end up being an NFC championship battle. That's disrespectful to Philly, who I think is phenomenal too. But, I mean, I think that Green Bay showed that they could hang with the biggest dogs in the league. You know, I mean, this went right down to the wire. I didn't lose any respect for the Packers whatsoever. I maybe even gained some on the road to battle this thing out to the very end against a extremely tough physical football team, mentally tough, physically tough. I know you have a take on the Lions. Real quick, I just commend the organization that frankly has been one of the worst organizations of my lifetime.
Yeah.
That they understand the community they're in, the head coach, the hires on both sides of the ball, the coordinators, both of whom I think have a really good chance to be a head coach next year. There's a lot of players on this staff that relate to their guys really, really well. The front office has brought in the right kind of players via trade or draft, and they're really, really good. And I have two concerns, though, Wig.
Yep.
These defensive injuries are insane. I mean, good for them to hold the Packers to 31 with the guys they have to play with. You know what I mean? But
man.
I'm thinking playoffs. I'm not talking about can they get the 1 or 2 seed. Can they run the gauntlet of the NFC and then beat the Chiefs or Bills or whoever if they can't get healthier on defense? And I know this is going to sound unpopular because I respect it. I just don't agree with it. He goes for fourth down too much.
Yep, I knew it was coming.
Deep in your own end. I mean,
Yeah.
Even the one at the end of the game, like, that's an awesome way to set the tone against a division rival, get the fourth down and just end their game and squash them. But it wasn't the smart move. Just kick the field goal. I mean, you only saved like 30 seconds.
Yeah, you gave him too much hope. I want you to hear Matt Derry. I want to set this clip up by this. I was going to play this other clip, but I ain't going to do it to him. Matt actually picked them to lose because earlier this week I played a clip where he named about 14 different dudes, all guys you know, where they have lost people. And he finally said, you know what, this might be the game, man, where it doesn't all happen. Listen to what he said after the game.
Somehow, some way, this Detroit Lions team just keeps winning. 12-1, 11 straight wins, a franchise record. The Lions have clinched a playoff spot. They win on Thursday Night Football at Ford Field, 34-31. Matt Derry with you, Locked On Lions. What an incredible performance tonight from this Lions defense. Yes, they gave up 31 points, but they got stops when they needed to, and they hung in there with all the injuries. And then at the end, the bottom line is that the Packers could not stop this Lions offense. They get aggressive at the end on a 4th and 1, get a David Montgomery first down, and then Jake Bates kicks the game-winning field goal as time expires from 31 yards out. And yes, the Lions win again at home, 34-31 over the Packers in what was a classic Thursday night game at Ford Field. More coming up on Locked On Lions.
So, Matt, hear me out here real quick. All of these defensive players keep going down, but yet and still, and I have noticed the difference in their play. Let's not kid ourselves.
Sure,
they gave up 31 points last night, but they still get the type of play. It's like because these guys are gone, they're not just going to all of a sudden start calling this real vanilla stuff. No, they're still attacking. They're still telling their dudes to attack. They're still playing the same coverages they're playing, and they haven't lost their identity. And that's why I say it's the most resilient team I've ever seen, is because at some point when you lose people, it's supposed to show up more than it's showing up, and it's not. And so my point is this: if this were offense that they were losing all of these people, you know what people would say? They give them the Mike Shanahan treatment. Oh, anybody can run for 2,000 yards in that offense. You remember Terrell Davis did it? It's like, oh, no. Clinton Portis ran for 1,800. Ah, see, I told you. And then Mike Anderson runs for 1,200. See, I told you. See, you told me what? 1,200 ain't 2,000. It's a difference. They just actually identify the type of people, and this is the connectivity between Brad Holmes and the coach. They know who they need to get, and they identify those type of guys because they actually have an identity. And that's what they're leaning on right now, and that's why I call them resilient, because they're even resilient for doing what you say they shouldn't do, because that's what they always do.
Yeah, so, yeah. Oh, I get it.
It's just kind of who they are. I do want to tap into Green Bay here real quick, because they showed us who they are too. Close, man.
Mm-hmm.
They're almost like Green Bay was, that Detroit was last year. It's just like you're right there. Let me hear Peter Bukowski and his reaction from last night's action.
The Green Bay Packers lost to the Detroit Lions 34-31, and they got robbed. It is not interesting to talk about officiating. It is lame to complain about referees. I wish I didn't have to do it. And yet here we are, because I have to, because the officiating was so one-sided in this football game that it cost the Green Bay Packers the chance to win the NFC North. It is going to single-handedly cost the Packers a chance to win the NFC North, because that dream is over. They played well enough to win this football game. They had to play the Detroit Lions, the best team in the league so far this year, and the guys on the officiating crew. This was an abomination of officiating. Call after call after call went the Detroit Lions' way. This was stolen from the Green Bay Packers, and it's going to cost them playoff seeding. It's going to have real ramifications in the NFC, and it's garbage.
Strong take from a man, Peter Bukowski, Locked On Packers. Now, look, I didn't leave the game thinking they got robbed, but I also didn't leave the game thinking if a Packers, somebody in the Packers media or their fans say they got robbed, I ain't going to argue with you, because I was watching it too. But see, that's what I feel that way about every NFL game this year. I'm like, oh man, somebody's going to be pissed because it seems like they really got taken. But I think the Packers need to be just a little bit better. Quay Walker with his penalties, some drops by Christian Watson. There's just these little things that they need to do, in my opinion, that will make those referees' calls not matter as much.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why Peter's not thrilled with it, and Packers fans aren't thrilled with it. It did seem a little one-sided, but that's not uncommon in today's NFL, as you said. I mean, officiating is really, really difficult, and it's not a great officiating league. I think we know that. And every team that loses, well, not every team, but a lot of teams that lose close games can point to officiating. Now, I know the stats don't always show everything, but I pulled up the box score. Each team was penalized 7 times, 1 for 59 yards, 1 for 56. You know, like that's like even Steven. But I understand that some of the calls that could have gone one way did lean the Lions' direction. But my take's closer to yours in that maybe a lot like the Lions a year ago, you win a playoff game this year, maybe you even get to the Final Four. You understand what playoff football is all about. Your division is really nasty, so there's a lot of difficult, division games that you learn from. Love gets another year under his belt. He's been a little inconsistent. The receivers get another year under their belt. You add 1 more or 2 more pieces in the offseason, kind of like you did with Josh Jacobs. And maybe you're that team next year.
And maybe you are. You're right.
Yeah. And I'm not even writing off this year. I mean, they're not done.
They're a pretty good team. It's just for me, they always, whether it be an injury, whether it be a drop ball, whether it be a bad call, or just chalking it up to inexperience, they're always just a little short. And so Peter might be right about the officiating, but I'll tell you this: over the last 15 years, there have been two teams that people complain about the officiating all the time. Right now, it's the Chiefs. Everybody swears they keep winning because of the Chiefs. And before that, it was the Patriots. So all I'm saying is there is something about winning that makes everyone think you're cheating. And that's kind of the way this works. We're going to stick
and sometimes
around.
Penalties come from losing one-on-one matchups. You hold somebody or you drag someone down, and because you're getting beat by the Patriots or Chiefs, or the Lions.
I'll tell you what, you mentioned the division. We're going to have some fun. We're going to hang around the NFC North because it's so competitive, with the exception of the Bears. But we are going to mention the Bears and how the rest of this season affects Caleb Williams, but not before we discuss a reunion. Kirk Cousins going back to Minnesota in a game that has meaning, and why is everybody sleeping on the Vikings? We'll talk about that in just a second here on Locked On NFL. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. It's guaranteed perfection in every single bite, and right now you can save an unforgettable gifts with 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, score an extra $30 off with promo code NFL. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages featuring gourmet favorites. From legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide for a limited time at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with the promo code NFL. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code NFL. Minimum purchase may apply. And since we're in the gift-giving mood, Skylight Frames is our other sponsor, man. And I'm telling you, Skylight Frames is a very, very good gift, especially around these times. It could be a gift or something that you hold on to that you gift to someone later, because you can capture memories, especially for people that are in the military and that aren't there. You can capture memories when you're missing someone this holiday season and you want them to be a part of your festivities from afar. Do your loved ones that live far away a favor. I'm telling you, they wish they could be close to you. This is all you got to do. Gift giving maybe not be your love language. You may overthink it and wind up with something disappointing or nothing at all. Well, with this, that doesn't happen because we got the perfect gift. Skylight Frame is a touchscreen digital photo frame for your whole family will love. Upload thousands of photos with your phone and watch them appear in seconds. It's so easy to use, and it makes a wonderful gift. And now is a special limited time offer for our listeners. Get $20 off your purchase at Skylight Frame when you go to skylightframe.com/NFL. That's skylightframe.com/NFL. That's SKYLIGHTFRAME.com/NFL and get $20 off your purchase now. Get $20 off for Skylight Frame at skylightframe.com/NFL. All right, moving along here on Locked On NFL, where it's your team every day. We're talking about the NFC North and the game last night. It's the one that everybody wanted to see. And I looked at the standings yesterday when I was talking to Chris Carter, and I realized something. The Minnesota Vikings are actually the team that's in second place. They're 10-2. They've lost one game in that division. It was to the Lions, and it came down to the wire too. I know they got Sam Darnold as their quarterback, and that makes things look a little bit differently when it comes to them making progress. Well, their old quarterback is coming into town. He plays for the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons are trying to win their division, and so are the Minnesota Vikings. And if the Vikings are going to do it, they got to beat the Falcons this weekend, and Kirk Cousins is coming in. How's Aaron Freeman feel about Kirk Cousins right now in Atlanta? Listen to this.
Kirk Cousins returns to US Bank Stadium. Things are going great for you guys over there, right, with him?
Yeah, real great, Luke. Real
Great. Aaron, we're going to see Michael Penix? What's the deal? We benching him after 4 interceptions?
No, we're not benching Kirk Cousins after 4 interceptions.
No? He never did that in Minnesota. Not once.
I know. You had to go all the way back to like 2015 or something.
Yeah, to like a random Washington game in his second year. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was like his 5th start or something like that.
Yeah.
So no, we're not going to see Michael Penix this week. Maybe later in the season. If, I've talked about it on Locked On Falcons. If they get to 8 losses, right? So if they lose this week and then lose another one, then at that point it's going to be
that might still make the playoffs.
They might. It depends on what happens over the next couple of weeks, but it looks like Washington's probably going to get 10-7 and they'll probably lock up the 7 seed. It looks like Tampa Bay
7 seed. We're not aiming for the 7 seed.
Yeah, well, and if Tampa Bay passes them, I think Tampa Bay is probably going to get the 10-7 too. So like it's really like I think 10-7 gives the Falcons their best chance. 9-8, you're going to need some help, and we'll see.
Lots of layers to this matchup, Matt. 2 rookie quarterbacks, neither one of them playing. One is hurt, and the other one, well, he's just not playing. For 2 organizations that did a little swap, in the offseason, if you will. I think Minnesota's winning this thing. I think they're going to win the game, and I actually think they're winning the fact that they ain't paying Kirk Cousins all that money, and they actually got a little bit better.
100% agree. And I think the Falcons are in a really sticky situation here because I'm not trying to, hot take this, but of players that you went into the season with, this is our starter. I'm not talking about the Cooper Rushes of the world that got thrust in there. Kirk Cousins has been one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the entire league. I mean, there's very little playmaking skills. It looks like he never totally recovered from the injury. I studied these guys in week 1 because that was the Steelers. And a lot of people thought, oh, he's just rusty. He hasn't played after that game. He doesn't look any better in December. And his decision-making is really poor. I like their O-line, but people seem to love their O-line, which especially in protection, is really questionable. They're a run-blocking group, and he doesn't trust them, and he can't protect himself, and he puts the ball in harm's way. And in this game in particular, that pass rush in Minnesota and the stuff that Flores is going to do to him, he's going to get hit, and he knows that going into a really loud environment that's going to be not kind to him, I'm sure. And then the other side, Darnold has his warts, but it's usually when he's under pressure. Falcons rush the passer like the worst in the league. Like, I think they're going to get their doors blown off. And I really do. I think this is going to be a non-competitive game. And you look at the NFC South, I think Tampa is better than Atlanta. But their sticking point is they lost both head-to-head games against the Falcons. So they have to have a better record than Atlanta to win the division. They have an easier schedule, and they're the better team. But that's also prohibiting you from going to Penix, I think, too, which is really the right move for the organization. Wait, I got one crazy thought.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any truth to this at all. But I was one of them that was pretty critical of Atlanta for drafting Penix at the time. You just invested in Cousins. I was on that boat. Take Verse, take an edge rusher. You haven't rushed the passer well in a decade. However, what if you signed Cousins, you get him in your building, he's a Falcon now, there's a couple months between that period and the draft, and your doctors are saying, this guy's not in good shape, guys. You bought a lemon, and then maybe that's what happened.
Yeah, your frame's bent, right?
Right.
So I'm sitting here thinking that one way out of this for the Falcons is this: at the end of this year, there might be a desperate team that takes a quarterback number 1 in the draft, like the Giants, that doesn't want to rush that quarterback. Let's just say if it's the kid from Miami.
Yeah.
I think whoever takes Shador has to play him for obvious reasons. But if you want to bring your quarterback along slowly so that he doesn't get the Bryce Young treatment, Kirk Cousins is perfect. As long as you can protect him. They may be able to move off of him and you trade him to somebody like Dale or the Raiders that needs a buffer quarterback for a year and go ahead and pay Penix, and then it won't look like such a bad move. I
don't think Cousins will be their starting quarterback next year.
No, I do not also.
Yeah,
so that's why I say you try to get something for him. I don't care if it's a day 3 pick, just get his money off your books. Caleb Williams, there's so much talk about quarterbacks, and will nest right here for a couple of minutes in the bottom of this division with Chicago. It would look like, if you're a Bears fan, we just talked about these three teams maybe being three of the four best teams, probably three of the four best teams in the NFC. And he's like, okay, what's the future for Chicago? I think the rest of this year is super, super important because he's a young quarterback. I've seen it here in Jacksonville. Every single thing matters. So for me, I'm going to listen to Lauren Cox here and then give you an assessment of it and let you tell me what you think about it based on your experience.
The Chicago Bears are going to look quite a bit different on Sunday against the San Francisco 49ers. Of course, it's Thomas Brown's first game as interim head coach, but it's also defensive coordinator Eric Washington's first ever game calling plays, and some key injuries on both sides of the ball could lead to some new starting lineups for the Bears. But I'm most curious about how Thomas Brown handles being a head coach, and there's a lot that goes into that because of his responsibilities on offense. And it's that balancing act that I'm going to be keeping the closest eye on here.
I think it's a mistake of anybody who's looking at this thinking, okay, here's what's happening. Thomas Brown is auditioning for a job. Mm-hmm. That's a mistake. I think what's going on here is they know that they're at a point with Caleb where you got to make sure you do the right thing, and everybody thinks that starts in the offseason. I think it starts right now. I think whatever they're doing right now is they're insulating him. They are doing everything for whoever that next coach is going to be. And all of these things matter, man. There are things that we could go back. I wish we could take 6 or 7 weeks off of some of the things that Trevor Lawrence was put through. I think them firing Matt Eberflus was just them stopping something worse from happening to Caleb in his career.
Big picture, I have a lot of problems with what's going on in Chicago. And give me a second here to unwind this thing. I mean, new play caller this week. That's his third play caller already. His second head coach already. He's probably going to have a third head coach and fourth play caller the second they snap the ball next year to start the next season. It's too much change. It's just way too much change. And I was really, really excited about the Thomas Brown bump to OC. And that's when the offense started to look good. And now you're going to take him out of that position and make him do something that, I mean, he was a position coach 3 weeks ago, and now he's in charge of the entire organization and calling timeouts and all the stuff he's never done. Like, you had something good going on offense. I don't care if you fire Eberflus or not. I just don't want to mess with the offense. I don't want to mess with Caleb. You know, let Brown run the offense for the rest of the year and build some momentum on that side of the ball. And then it was Monday or Tuesday. I think it was someone from the Bears organization, of course, came out and said, this is going to be the best job in the offseason. And BP and I broke it down. And I said, it is, but I'm going to be the new coach coming in. Of course, you're going to keep your GM. You know, I'm not going to be able to pick that guy. Maybe you're going to make me keep Thomas Brown for better or worse because he's a good offensive coordinator by the looks of things. So is that a good job? And then back to my dump truck versus Ferrari thing. I came in and said, yeah, if I'm Belichick or whoever, if I'm the OC for the Lions, if I'm the guy you want, I'll take this job, but we have to have a long talk about what all our salary cap money and draft picks are going to be going towards, and that's linemen. We play in Chicago, in the NFC North, in crappy weather, and we're light on the lines of scrimmage. We're drafting guards. We're drafting defensive tackles. We're drafting big people for an entire offseason. DJ Moore and Adunze and those guys are fine. We are going to get physical and rugged so we can hang with the Lions. Back to our conversation 20 minutes ago.
Got to be able to hang with the Lions. Got to be able to hang with the Eagles. And you know what? You got to be able to hang with the Bills and the Chiefs. They also play the same brand of football, and the Ravens. So you ain't going to run around the grind no more, man. If you can't get pushed and you can't stop from getting pushed, you're going to get pushed around. We'll talk about that and more as we take a whip around the league. We'll talk about our game of the week, our second game of the week, and take a whip around the league. We'll do that in just a second here on Locked On NFL. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Ice Shaker. Man, I got my Jaguars branded Ice Shaker, and I'm telling you, my wife stole it from me. It's the best workout bottle on the market, and she took it. I know if you're like me, your holiday shopping list is like far from complete. Well, if that's the case, I've got a perfect gift for you, the passionate sports fan in your life. Perhaps you've heard of Ice Shaker. Ice Shaker is now officially licensed with the NFL, NHL, NBA, NCAA, and Major League Baseball, and it's the ideal gift. Created and used by the Gronkowski brothers, Ice Shakers has sold over 1 million bottles. They have changed the game with workout bottles, and this is the gift you've been looking for. Go to iceshaker.com and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to checkout to save 25% off on your order. Kitchen grade stainless steel bottles that won't absorb odor like the plastic bottles do. I'm telling you, Ice Shaker is for real. Order your team branded bottles today at iceshaker.com and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for 25% off your order. Ice Shaker, show your support for the teams that with the best branded workout bottles on the market. Make sure you go to Ice Shakers. And today's show is brought to you and sponsored by our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Rolling along here on a Friday with my man, Matt Williamson. Man, I chose an interesting game for Game of the Week. We'll get to that right now. The NFC squad shows. They were talking about who can make the playoffs and who can't. The AFC squad shows, rather. Interesting name came up, and that is San Diego. Oh, I said San Diego.
I still do it
doing that, right? LA Chargers. I got an interesting take on it, but I want to hear David Drogemeyer from Locked On Chargers as he talked about the team that he covered.
David, how are you feeling? I mean, we mentioned the Bills, Steelers, and Texans, but even like right now, you look at the wild card teams, it's the Ravens, Chargers, Broncos. Going to throw it here because we're in that category. Do the Chargers have a chance to represent in the Super Bowl this year? Where are you gauging at with where they're at, considering where their offense has been?
Yeah, I like the fact that the Chargers have a legitimate head coach here, and it definitely has been a huge difference in the culture. You know, the Chargers are a different football team than they were last year. They're a much more physical team. They're much more well-disciplined. They are prepared every single game they show up. They don't look like, they're out of place, which I could not say in previous years. So I like the direction that they are going. I don't think they have enough firepower on the offensive side to be able to put up the amount of points it's going to take in the playoffs for them to get there this year. Now, next year, after the Chargers have $100 million in cap space and a bunch of picks, then yeah, they can definitely load up and I think be in a much better position to go out there and vie for a Super Bowl.
Man, this segues happen by accident sometimes. That's where you have one thing that leads into the other. We were just talking about the Bears, right? And the fact that they didn't have leader of men. And here's what I want you to imagine. Imagine if Jim Harbaugh was coaching Chicago.
Yep.
Like starting tomorrow. What would he do? What did he say about Joe Alt? He is a weapon. He had a chance to go in there, and he got his big arm quarterback out there. He had a chance to go in there and say, you know what, we need to get him some weapons. I'm gonna draft Malik Nabers. He's like, no, we already got a decent offensive line. We're gonna get another one. So now, once you settle that part, it's easy. Once you get the infrastructure right, it's easy to go by the little curtains on the tree. And I ain't saying that skill position players are like that, but what I'm saying is it's easier to do it that way than to buy all these skill guys and then have to go and you got to lift your house up and redo the guts of your house now. Yep. That's hard to do, man. That's hard. And I think that the Chargers, I agree with Jogi, by the way. I don't think they have enough, but they're still ahead of the game. They're at least a year or two ahead of where teams like the Bears are, where they're trying to get there.
Yep, I think they're closer to the Packers than the Bears. You know what I mean? Like where they're going to get some playoff experience. They already have the quarterback. They had a pair of offensive tackles. They got the coach. And I think they might beat the Chiefs this week. I don't think they're a great team. I do think they're an offseason away from maybe being a great team, but I think the Chiefs are due to lose.
I do too, and that's why I brought it up as the game of the week. That might be the game for all of us to watch, and the Buffalo Bills might be sitting there rooting for the Chargers to win. Let's take a whip around the league real quick on some of these games, man. You could just yell a team if you want to, because As a matter of fact, we're going to start right at the top. Jacksonville goes to the Titans.
Yeah, I'm probably taking the Titans here. Just
all right, there you go. We don't even need to talk about it no more. There you go.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Jaguar fans and Locked On Jaguars, whoever that host is. The Jets go to Miami.
I think it's another potential blowout situation. The Dolphins at home.
So do I. I think Miami wins that game. We talked about Atlanta, Minnesota. You already said you think it's going to be a blowout. I agree with you. The New Orleans Saints. There's some clunkers this week, man. You got
it's not a great slate.
The Saints going up to play the Giants.
I like the Saints in this one. They're showing some signs of life.
They are showing a little bit of signs of life. They always do that when special teams coaches take over, too, by the way.
Yeah, it's true. Energy.
Yeah. Carolina, who aren't as bad as we thought, but they about to get their head bashed in because they go to Philly.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have no pass rush whatsoever. The offensive line for the Eagles should dominate this game.
Say what you want about this game. It's going to be entertaining. Cleveland goes to Pittsburgh.
So I got to throw out a Steelers stat. I mean, the Browns have not swept the Steelers since 1988. That's the longest streak in NFL history, and I don't think it starts today or this week.
Yeah, that's an even more impressive stat than the fact that the Steelers have beaten the Ravens 8 out of 9 times. That's you sit there and think, really? Yeah, really. This happened.
Another one, Wig. The Browns are 0-20 in their last 20 regular season games here. They did win a playoff game here, but 0-20 in the regular season here.
Ooh. Yeah. Well, I'm tell you what, you throw Jameis Winston into that, all that stuff might go out the window. Ain't no telling what hocus pocus going to happen in Pittsburgh this week. It's
going to be fun.
That's right. The Las Vegas Raiders at Tampa.
Yeah, I can't pick an upset here either. I think Tampa rolls.
Quietly a good game. I'm sure pro personnel, people from around the league are going to enjoy this one. The Seattle Seahawks and the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, this should compete for game of the week. I mean, I really think the winner of this game probably wins the West.
Yep.
I think Seattle's in a better spot. I really like what their defense has done the last couple of weeks.
Here's my tricky one of the week. Believe it or not, Buffalo against the Rams. I know the Rams are beat up, but the Rams got just enough playmakers, man, at certain spots to really cause Buffalo some problems if they go out there sleeping.
Yeah, I just don't see a lot of holes in the Bills team. I mean, I know that's not an easy road trip. I'm going to take Buffalo, but that could be a very close one or a potential upset. Yeah.
Bears, Caleb Williams, we mentioned going out to play the banged up 49ers.
I think Chicago sneaks one out there. I don't like what the Niners are, where they're at all right now. I mean, the injuries, it's bad mojo.
Yeah, I don't see that boombox coming out of the locker room with them no more. So, I know things not getting. All right, we picked probably a toss-up between the Chiefs, the Chiefs and the Chargers. We're going with the Chargers on that in upset?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I just think the Chiefs have some warts that are bound to show up here sooner than later.
And nothing I like best than the Cowboys being back on primetime when they're a bad team. They play the Cincinnati Bengals on Monday night.
Yeah, I'll take the home team here. I mean, I think these are pretty much equal teams. I know Dallas is a dog in this game, but I don't quite understand that. Cincinnati's defense is miserable.
Yeah, they are miserable. I'm not miserable. You're not miserable because we get together every Friday here on Locked On NFL in the barbershop and bring you the absolute best we can with the use of local experts. But guess what? We're the second edition. The first edition of Locked On NFL comes on in the morning with Tyler Rowland. Make sure you check out the Madman each and every day on the Locked On Podcast Network. All right, Williamson, go. You got one charge for the weekend. Give them hell this weekend. Whatever you do, man, make it fun. All right, take care of each other. We'll do the same. We'll see you next Friday here on Locked On NFL.